Speaking of excited, I have never heard you more excited than when we were chatting away at 4 o'clock last night. You said, "Don't say anything. Look, I've got some big stuff. Don't say anything." I mentioned one bloke who had rated a 38. And I had to keep it under cloak and dagger because the great man has got some comparisons that I think are going to make some headlines.
I was listening with some real nervousness last night whether or not G was going to get rid of the goal 24 hours early.
You were compelled to text.
Well. You did well to hold on, Gerard. I was very impressed.
He was about ready to burst, he was. He was that excited about it. All right, your overall verdict from round 14, and you've got... Well, it's a well-worn phrase, but it was pretty pertinent on the weekend. Chaos v control.
Yeah, so I thought with 10 weeks to go until finals kick off, we'll do a bit of a deep dive into just a couple of generic competition areas to start off the show with 10 weeks to go, as I said, until finals. And last year, ahead of the final series, we dropped in the chaos and control terminology with how we were actually analysing that aspect. It's been mentioned for years and years. It's chaos footy, it's control footy.
It's an article in the Herald Sun in 2005.
Yes, I was going to say
that far back.
I was going to say 07, 05.
Serious?
Yeah, 05.
Who wrote that one?
You're looking at him.
You wrote that in 05.
It might have been 07, but it was about then.
Right. Take it back a few. It's like the fish you
Never
catch.
forget the crime and punishment article in 07.
Crime and punishment.
That's still up in our office, that article.
Chaos and control is not new. But it's been defined, which I loved. And it was defined last year by Hoyne.
So we thought that, so one of our guys internally, Christian Jolly, unbelievable to sort of come up with, a way in which we could do it. So we've looked at, just to keep it as simple as we possibly can. Control means that you're taking more marks than you are winning ground balls. And chaos, you're winning more ground balls than you are taking marks. So as simple as we could possibly keep it. Okay. So just to go back over history. For the last 15 years, right? Home and away matches, 55% of them have been involved in chaos matches for 15 years. In finals, that jumps to 75% of finals over a 15-year period are in chaos. So you look at what's happening this year from a chaos perspective, and the amount of matches that are in chaos matches this year, it's the highest ratio that we've seen for 5 years. Okay, so it's jumped by 13% on last year.
Why is that so? Is Champion Data's records and education pieces having an impact on coaches?
I think, and the second section that I'll get into after this, I think it's a change in method and thinking with how you actually want to move the footy, which has created more ground balls as opposed to the more control basis. But an increase of 13% in chaos matches from 1 year to the next.
That's a lot.
Is a significant jump. So just keep that in mind. However, this year, if you can get your game, if you can drop into a control game yourself, you will win the game 60% of the time so far this season. If you drop into a chaos game, you're winning the game 40% of the time, right? So there's more chaos matches, but if you are the ones that are dropping into the control game and getting it out of chaos, you're winning the game 60%. People will be going, why is that? Well, that goes hand in hand with what we have said for 14 weeks with what 2025 footy is. It's all about how you use it as opposed to necessarily how you win it. Okay? So there's more chaos.
Yep.
But if you're the ones
controlling
that
the ball,
can get it out of chaos and can drop into a control game, you're winning 60% of matches, which is the second highest percentage, the second highest win rate we've seen in a season for 10 years.
Give me the example. I assume it's Collingwood.
So these are the three teams that you do not want to allow to drop into a control game because they will kill you. The three are Adelaide, the Western Bulldogs, and Geelong. So them themselves, as a threesome, have dropped into a control game 19 times this year. They're 16-3 when they've dropped into a control game with an average winning margin of 8 goals. They are so potent. They are so dynamic with ball in hand. that if they are able to drop into that method, good luck beating them. If you can take those 3 teams out of it, Adelaide are 4-4 this year when they are forced into a chaos game and playing a chaos way. Alarmingly for the Crows, their 4 losses have been against Gold Coast, Collingwood, Hawthorn and Geelong, who have taken that control away from them. The Dogs, if you drop them into a chaos game, they are 3-5 this year. Their only 3 wins have been against North, Port Adelaide and GWS. The Geelong one, if you're a Geelong supporter, don't panic. You're 3-3 when you've been forced to drop into a chaos game, but your 3 wins, you've knocked over Collingwood, Adelaide and Hawthorn. So you can get it done both ways. But the other 2, absolutely front of mind in terms of what you want to do. Going the other way is really interesting. Okay, so the teams, some of the contenders that actually have really good records from a chaos situation when they're forced to play chaos footy. So Brisbane are the really interesting ones. We all associate Brisbane of being able, they want to play the control game.
Yep.
They want to play the uncontested marking game. They've been forced to drop into a chaos game 4 times this year for a 3-win, 1-loss record, and their 1 loss was against Adelaide, who they should have beaten based off accuracy by 6 goals. So that's something different for Brisbane, whereas last year, if they were forced into a chaos game, their win-loss ratio was poor. So this year, that's changed. Gold Coast, when they've dropped into a chaos game, we all know what Hardwick wants. Hardwick wants that chaos game. They're 7-3. This is a bit of a weird one. I'm going into dangerous territories here. 7-3. Come with me on this. In wet chaos games,
Right.
They've lost all 3.
Describe wet. Is that
Rain.
What about you?
This is why.
Surely most
Slippery,
wet games
slippery.
are chaos.
No, absolutely not.
Most would have to
No.
be just by virtue of the fact it's hard to control.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like that. So final. Yeah, not every final's in the wet, and most finals are chaos.
No, but when it does rain, surely that lends
If
itself
it
to more
rains,
chaos.
yeah, no. If it rains, it's going to be a high
Yeah.
chance it's going to be a chaotic game.
And by the way, you might have written that 05 column in the Herald Sun, but as has been pointed out here, Maxwell Smart worked out chaos and control in the 60s. Well, I guess. Yeah, that's it. Great show, wasn't it, Get Smart?
Great show, yeah. Who was your favourite agent?
99.
Oh, 99.
Oh, that's the first one I could think of.
But when Gold Coast drop into a chaos game, a dry chaos game, 7-0 for
Wins.
the year. 7-0. So there are 3 losses in the wet chaos. Geelong was wet, chaos.
Okay.
Freo was wet, that was chaos. And Brisbane, the game you did, wet, chaos. And the interesting one before we finish up this is the Hawks. I'm always fascinated when a team has a bye, right? A mid-season bye, because you get 2 weeks really to properly review your program, what's working, what's not working, okay? When they drop into a chaos game or are forced to drop into a chaos game, their win-loss record is 5 wins and 2 losses this year. Big tick. When they go control mode, they're a 50-50 team and have lost to Collingwood, Brisbane and Geelong by playing that method. So I wonder whether or not Sam Mitchell's looking at this going, right, our ball movement's been spoken about, our offense been spoken about. Maybe we have to implement a different method post-bye to reflect the win-loss ratio that we've got when we actually drop into a more of a ground ball game as opposed to a marking game.
What about sides that are trying to play control, but their kicking is so poor that it ends up chaos, as in Melbourne?
Well, you're a chaos team by
default.
not by design, unfortunately, for
So
Goody.
you'd have them categorised, wouldn't you? The controllers for the chaotics.
Yeah, you have them. Yeah, so we've got them categorised in terms of who's played the most chaos games and who's actually been involved in the most chaos games. So someone like a Geelong themselves are in more control games than any other team in the competition. Sorry, the second most control games in the competition. Brisbane want to play the control game more than anyone else. Gold Coast and Sydney, ironically, which is interesting, played the chaos game more than anyone else.
The issue is it by design playing chaos, or is it by pressure from the opposition?
And this is what we, having this conversation, don't absolutely know because we're not inside the 4 walls of a footy club. All we can do is just go off what we see, what we analyse.
What's Collingwood? Did you mention Collingwood there?
Yeah, so Collingwood are both. Collingwood have been involved in 7 control games and 6 chaos games, and their win-loss record
Chameleon. Chameleon Collingwood.
Yes, Chameleon Collingwood. So just something to just keep an eye on. There's more chaos footy in 2025.
But
if you can drop it out of chaos and get the control going, like we've spoken about all year, ball use is king. That is,
will it hold up in finals, though? That's something we don't know.
That is interesting. Yep. So as I said, 75% of finals are chaos. So I find this really interesting. Just something that we'll keep an eye on.
Daniel Hoyne's with us. Full-on footy analysis, as always, on a Tuesday. A 2025 stock take you want to run?
Yeah. So second part of this, 10 weeks to go. We're now 14 weeks in. What sort of change with the competition? We know what's real and what's not by this stage. So we spoken about all year speed of ball movement. We're measuring speed of ball movement for the first time in the AFL industry, and it's becoming a real cheat sheet with how teams are wanting to play, what works, what doesn't work, change of angles, all that sort of stuff. So the reality is now, yes, we've got 7 years' worth of speed of ball movement data. The game's never been faster than what it is right now with your ability to, or your want to move the footy. But how it's actually come about is the most interesting part about this, which will sum up why there's more chaos in the game this year than previous years. So in terms of how long it's taking teams and individuals to dispose of the footy, it's the second slowest season we've seen. However, we have never seen more aggression with teams wanting to go long and direct towards goal than what we have for the 7 years that we've seen. 16 of the 18 teams this season are going with more long distance disposals than we've seen in previous season based on AFL averages.
But where? To the top of the goal square?
No,
inside
just
50?
all over the ground. All over the ground. So 16 of the 18 teams are going longer than we've seen previous AFL averages, which explains the more ground balls that are up for grabs, the less want to actually get it into a control game, the more want to get territory, to get speed on the ball, to create distance towards goal and sort of almost challenge opposition defences more than what we've seen over time. Think back to 2021. A lot of it was defend with ball in hand. That's not 2025 footy anymore. There's more aggression with that. And when we sort of break it down, remember 8 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, we broke down every team, based off the remote control. Right. So right now, just keeping this really straightforward. There's 2 ways in which you can move the footy. You move it in straight lines, or you can move it in change of angles. So I know you're a skier, G, or you have been a skier. So we're going to jump into this sort of. So we've got the jumpers,
right? The
jumpers, the ones that are just going straight. And you can go straight.
Failed snowboarder, I think, is the description.
Failed.
The jumpers.
So you can go straight lines.
Yeah.
You go short, AFL average, or long. Right. There's only one team that goes jumping in a short direction.
The ski jump.
Yep. And that's St Kilda. There's 4 teams that go jumping in an AFL average direction, and that's Sydney, Adelaide, the Dogs, and Carlton. And then there's 5 teams that go jumping in a long direction that just they're there for the entertainment side of things.
I think Carlton are more of a mogul skier. Right. Just bumps everywhere.
Yeah.
The long jumpers are Gold Coast, Freo, West Coast, Collingwood, and Port Adelaide.
Eddie would go, yep.
Now, the slalom skiers, the ones that are just changing angles with absolute excitement. There's 3 types of them. We can go the short lateral, change of angle. We can go the long lateral, change of angle. Or we can go the full-on aggression, change of angle, straight towards goal. So the short lateral jumpers, or slalom riders, if you like, Essendon, North Melbourne, Brisbane.
Yes.
The long lateral are the Ds. And then the aggression slalom runners are GWS, Hawthorn, and Richmond. And that leaves one team who is not on the mountain.
Collingwood
who are not going in. No, Collingwood are the long jumpers.
Okay.
That's the Jackal. The Jackal being Chris Scott. And the Cats. You got no identity with what they're actually going to do.
Right.
Trying to work out game by game with them with what they try and do. And we've said this on the show.
Yes, you have.
He mentioned it at round 3. He stuck true to it. We are going to change based on the opposition more than we have previously.
They're cross-country skiing. They're just making it up as they go. They're just doing whatever they want. They're off the map. They're off the grid.
So can I
No
just
lift
give
pass
you,
required.
Can I just give you an example of the Jackal, right? And what he. So week to week, the Adelaide, versus Adelaide, we're going to play quick, and we're going to go long jumping. That's what they did against Adelaide. Challenge the defence, kick under 19 points, win the game. Then we get to the Bulldogs, and we're going to go on the slalom, and we're going to go short lateral. Yeah, we're going to try and open up the ground, and let's get them in a running race against us because we're going to back our runners over them.
Who do you think about short lateral? That's Grime Myers to a T, isn't it?
Oh, it's so many of them.
Yeah.
Let's get the game open and let's run. And then the best example of why he's the Jackal. 3/4 time against the best team in the competition in Collingwood, we are going long jumping for 3/4.
Right.
Long jumping. We're basically 2 goals down. Then you know what we're going to do? You know what we're going to do in the last quarter? We're going to hold it back. We're going to hold it back. We're going to hold it back. And then we're going to go long jumping because we've got a bloke by the name of Patrick Dangerfield inside the forward 50 who's going to go to work in this last quarter. We're going to bring it in to a high stoppage game, change the method, basically swing the game by 5 goals within a 20-minute period to get the result against the best team in the comp. So just something just to keep an eye on moving forward.
Hats off to the Jackal.
And Mitch has texted in, by the way, and you can do that. 0433 98 11 16. Mitch, what happened to they've got it, we've got it, or the ball's in dispute? Great show. I teach my under 14s that, but this is
Craig's
all.
just texted in and said Geelong's in the chairlift watching everyone else.
Yeah. They're in the chalet.
That's good.
They're in the chalet.
My viewers are good.
All right, the Western Bulldogs, you want to spend some time on them?
Yep. So what we are looking to do at the end of this 2025 campaign is induct the 4th Champion Data Immortal.
Okay.
We have in the current Champion Data Immortals, Gary Ablett Jr.,
Right.
Patrick Dangerfield, Dustin Martin,
Hang on a sec. There's plenty of people taking notes out there.
These are the legend status and the
4th Champion Data Immortal, if it continues this way,
Told you it was going to be big.
will be Ed Richards.
Okay, so the obvious question is, what's the criteria to become a Champion Data Immortal?
So AFL player rating points. That is the single most efficient and best way to measure impact of an individual. It takes into account how you win it, what you do with it, and where on the ground you actually win it. So to keep this really simple, if you get a 15 rating game, that's all Australian level, right? If you get a 20 plus rated game, that is out of this world good as an individual game. Across a season, our AFL ratings have been going for 15 years. The only 3 players that we have seen average an out of this world season, not an individual game, are Gazza, Dangerfield, Dusty, and currently Ed Richards. We have never seen a midfielder use the ball better in a season so far than what Ed Richards is doing since Gary Ablett in 2010.
And that's why I asked you yesterday, what price is he, the Brownlow?
Yeah.
$34.
If
we're already on.
If people want to talk about who is the best player in the competition, stop the argument, start the question again. Who is the second best player in the competition?
All right.
Because he's not even close.
Hang on a minute though, Hoyney. So people are listening to this. Can you put it, how is he getting this rating? Can you put it into terminology that people will understand? You've just mentioned one. So disposal efficiency.
So
doesn't waste it.
How you win it?
Yeah. So in a contest is good?
If you win in a contest, tick.
Right.
Where on the ground you win it. If you win in a forward half area.
More value?
Yeah, more value.
Yep.
And then the most important aspect.
How you use it.
How you use it. If you go sideways, no movement.
So meters gain
goal,
and with efficiency.
Just for the listeners out there, purely think of this. Has your player just put you in a greater chance to score next?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, tick. If the answer is, whatever. If the answer is, oh, no, well, you'll lose points for it.
So dream scenario is Ed Richards somewhere between the centre circle and the 50, wins a contested possession. He gives us a trademark 15-metre burst, and he hits Aaron Norton on the lead 45 metres away, and Aaron Norton goes back and bangs it through. That's El Primo.
Sensational.
Or he kicks the goal himself.
Norton and just goes
Sensational.
Or he kicks the goal himself.
And so the beauty about this guy, you're absolutely spot on. the beauty about this guy is he can do it in so many different ways. So what he's doing at the moment, as I said, so that 20-plus rated season, right? Just to give the other guys a bit of credit. So Dusty's 2017 season, that was obvious.
Yep.
Danger's done it twice, 16 and 17.
Incredible.
And the great man, Gazza, did it 5 times.
5 times.
5 times. And that doesn't include, we didn't have ratings in his probably 3 best seasons, 07, 08 and 09.
So who is second best?
Second best in the competition. Very, very close at the moment. Give me.
Now, before you answer this, as you're looking, right, because I reckon this is where Stu's coming in with this text from earlier. Stu's listening out in Lara, and Stu says, "Hi guys, if Max Holmes isn't one of the two, I won't believe a word from Hoyney or the ratings ever again. I still might, just don't tell him." Just from Stu.
Just tell Stu to tune in for a couple more minutes.
Told
And there'll be a little bit of Max Holmes conversation coming your way. Stu, who we got? Yeah, so Tristan Cherry's up there, Andrew Brayshaw's up there, Noah Anderson's up there, but they're not even close.
Different race.
Daylight.
Yeah, no, they're not even close. So just this guy, please, just people start to appreciate what he is doing. Gazza, Dusty, Danger. Enough said. Enough said.
There you go. All right. That's
solid from Hoyne.
Let that settle for a moment. You've got the Cats down here, though, something more broad.
Can I leave the Cats after the break? We only got a couple of minutes. Can I jump to Port Adelaide?
Of course.
Very quickly. Sorry to do that for you, Sammy.
Not at all.
It's taken a bit
Sure.
longer.
Got your guess who to jam in here as well.
So just wanted to give Port Adelaide just a little bit of love for what they did on the weekend. Not sure what you guys thought with Jason Horne-Francis, 80% forward time. Based off our rating stuff, as a midfielder this year, Horne-Francis going AFL average. As a forward, top 30 forward in the competition when he plays there. So well done to be able to identify that. We just talked about sit back and just wait to see if your team changes strategy post-bye. The 2 games since post-bye, Port Adelaide, clear change in strategy with their ball movement game. They are now jumping into the slalom.
Yep.
Is this Josh Carr's game plan, or they've gone back to Ken's?
I don't know the answer to that, but they started off a lot of handball going around in circles, etc.
They're the long lateral slalom runners.
Yeah, okay.
So the last 2 weeks with great success, especially against Melbourne. 26 points out of their D50 with a change of method offensively. Season best. Now you've got Farrell and Rosie across half-back flank. We're talking about the half-back flankers and why they rate so high in our system. Just looks a little bit different, not getting too carried away with what they're doing, but just a bit of recognition, for a change in mindset and a change in strategy since the bye.
You mentioned Cherry. We got quickly the difference between Cherry and Gawn. A lot of text on the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to... Can you think about that over the break?
About that.
And you've got to guess who for us.
Guess who? Okay, this player was AFL number 4 for ball use in 2024. He's now AFL number 189 for ball use. He plays for an interstate club.
Fallen off the cliff.
Fallen off a cliff. Interstate club. Dropped 185 spots for how he uses a footy.
He was surgical and now he's a hacker.
Who is it?
You guess who? The nominations have come from everywhere off the text. I'm completely befuddled with this, Gerard. Have you got a... So just the question again, Hoyney?
So this player has gone from number 4 for the impact that he had on the game through how he used the footy last year to number 189. He's dropped 185 places and he plays for an interstate team.
Chad Warner for me.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't think it can be Chad Warner because he made Hoyney's All-Australian side on the wing.
No, half-forward flank.
Can't be Chad Warner because he greeted it with a positive response.
Chad Warner was good because he was top 2, top 3 for ball use last year. So that was a good starting point.
That was
I'm really impressed.
He hasn't dropped off that much. He's dropped off though, hasn't he?
Yeah, no, has dropped off a little bit, but not enough. Nowhere near enough.
You nodded, you shook your head when I sort of threw Heaney up as a potential example.
Oh, you're helping him out, are you?
No, I didn't help. Did I help you out? Did I?
Well, anyway, I'm going for Zorko.
Zorko, no, it's not Zorko. Zorko's still impacting the season just as well as what he did last year.
There's a lot of people for the Lizard.
No, the Lizard's not there.
We've
spoken about this guy a couple of weeks ago and the change of role that he's played over the last 2 weeks. This guy is Isaac Rankin.
He just came through from Sammy and Taz. Well done to you, Sammy.
Well done, Sammy. He's all over it. So I'm just interested. I think Adelaide have got the bye this week. I'm pretty sure they have got the bye this week. So again, another team that's got a chance to reset.
Tagging.
Sort of, a little bit of that. Tagging. But I think it's more because he's still able to win it. Yeah. And he's still winning it as well as what he had.
Under the pump.
So his field kicking was top 60 in the comp last year. It's 242nd in the comp this year. He's left 22 points out on the scoreboard from his poor inaccuracy in front of goal, which is the 6th worst of any player this season. Last year, he had gained almost 5 goals on the scoreboard with his great accuracy in front of goal. So I know Kingy's doing a little bit of a deep dive on him tomorrow night on Fox Footy, but be really interested to see what they do to get this ball use going back. We keep talking about how important ball use is in the game in 2025. And this guy has shown, we've all seen it, how well he can use the footy. But we're now a 14-game period into Isaac's season where we've hardly seen it at all. I think we've only seen it in 2 or 3 games this year where his ball use was at the levels that it was last season. And I just wonder whether or not we sit here at the end of the year and if this hasn't improved, whether or not Adelaide can actually properly challenge Collingwood and Geelong without their number 1 or number 2.
Well, at various stages, he's been the best player in the game in the last couple of years. He's had patches, and if you drop that out of your system and he just becomes a good ordinary player, then your chances of winning the flag are dramatically diminished.
So it's a bit like the Collingwood conversation that we've had at length.
Yeah.
Best team in the competition with their best player not going anywhere near as well as we're seeing for the last 2 years. Well, I would have thought that's a significant sign of where the improvement can come from. This mob's sitting 4th on the ladder, doing so much right with probably their best player, or if Dawson is their best player, second best player, going well below what we've seen him do over the last 12, 24 months. So room for improvement, but can Isaac actually get there with his ball use this season?
A few texts coming through wanting to know what kick rating you give to Petrarca.
Not very high, unfortunately for Christian. I can't put it any nicely than that. He's ball winning, as we said last week or a couple of weeks ago, starting to get there, but unfortunately for Christian's ball use is well down.
All right, let's flip through some more of your talking points here, Hoyne, because as usual, you have come locked and absolutely loaded. You've got the Cats here.
So what I'm doing,
here we go.
When Patrick Dangerfield has finished this 2025 campaign, I'm sending Patrick Dangerfield to the Magic Millions yearling sales. Because I don't know.
He's got a good eye for talent.
I don't know if there's anyone that can identify talent better than what Patrick did.
Right.
And you're wondering why? Well, this is a quote from Patrick Dangerfield on the 19th of December in 2022.
Done his research.
3 years ago.
22.
This is Patrick Dangerfield talking about Max Holmes. There are Chris Judd-like traits. He has phenomenal endurance, but also electric speed. It's a rare combination. He hadn't played all that much footy during his junior days, and I think he's just starting to find out how good he could be. We haven't played him that much as an inside mid yet, but he could be a good stoppage player as well. I believe he could be the best player in the competition at some stage. He truly could be. He got laughed at.
He did.
For these comments.
Yes, he did.
People saying, how could you go out on a limb and say, a bloke that's only played 20 games, 25 games is Chris Judd-like?
Yep.
Well, we just had someone off the text asked about Max Holmes' game. Max Holmes' game against Essendon on the weekend was the highest rated game by any individual this season. So what he does, I don't know what you think, G, and I don't know what you think, Sammy, but it is such Chris Judd-like with what he does from a contest perspective.
Yep.
So Dangerfield has that explosion, but the contest stuff is more brutality. It's just get in, bash your way through, no one's going to hold you back, and then you explode. The Judd and Holmes model is win the contest cleanly, and then I take one step.
And away you go.
See you later.
Yeah.
You're not catching me.
Yeah.
So, and you think about those quotes with Dangerfield, and you look back, and you look ahead. We're 10 weeks away from finals. It's getting exciting. You think about what this guy has done he's only played in 2 final series. Right?
Yeah.
His prelim against Brisbane in 2022, before he went off with his hamstring injury.
Yep.
Number 1 rated player on the ground. His qualifying final last year against Port Adelaide, his 3rd final, number 2 rated player on the ground. His 4th final that he's played was against Brisbane last year in the prelim. Before he went off, Geelong 25 points in front. Where was Holmes? Number 1 rated player on the ground. So what this guy is doing, we all see it. We all can recognise just his importance and how good of a footballer he is. But straight away, when I watched that performance on the weekend, I don't know why I remember those Dangerfield comments. I've got to go back and give this a bit of love because he copped it at the time. But I think now we can all appreciate just how good of a footballer
I can see it on Fox Footy. You've got You've got Juddy over here. You've got Holmes over there, and in the middle you've got the quote and their numbers and their stats.
You and the Corn discussed that when it dropped a few years ago too. I just found your quotes from Sports Day. And actually held up all right. I thought you might have completely canned it.
You were trying to burn me, did you?
No, I was just So Kane said my initial reaction was to fall off my chair, but I remember hearing Geelong people speak about Sam De Koning before De Koning broke out, so I think you need to put some weight on what they're saying. And you said in part, Paddy Dangerfield, isn't going to say that and put pressure on the kid unless he thinks he's got some chance. And holds up well.
Yeah, no, happy with that result.
Ben in Seaview Downs.
Can I just ask the question though? Is he going to become a problem for Geelong, who've relied on him and Smith in finals? Because I remember a game about 8 weeks ago where he was tagged and hadn't been used to the tag all that often. If it happens in finals and all of a sudden there's no contribution or little contribution, then that's something that they're going to have to get over.
Yeah, and you would know far more about this than me, but I think when you've got two of them,
helps.
You're not really going to have, two and you think about the opposition that they're coming up against.
They don't tag.
No one tags.
Particularly if it's the Gold Coast.
But Setterfield tried to do the job on Smith.
Hasn't
got the pace to do it. So
this is where the tag on Nick Dacos was really intuitive and really creative, and that is you use pace.
Yeah, but there's only a certain few individuals that can do that. It's going to be interesting to watch, not just with him, but with others over the next 10 weeks. But just a bit of recognition there to Dangerfield, the recruiter.
Now Brisbane have the Cats on Friday, and if they lose, it'll be 3 consecutive losses. 2 on the bounce, of course, where they've scored or have more scoring shots than the opposition. So it's a real question, isn't it? It's just as simple as an accuracy, or is there a more deep-seated issue going on with the Premier?
So 2-part. First part is just the last 2 weeks in isolation. Accuracy has killed them. So expected scores had them winning the last 2 games by a combined margin of 60 points. They've lost both of that. That's the biggest differential ever recorded for 15 years since we've been doing expected scores, right? And unfortunately for Brisbane, the week against Adelaide was their own poor inaccuracy. Yep. And on the weekend just gone, it was GWS simply shooting the lights out,
Didn't
which
miss with shot.
you can't do much about. So park those to a side. But we're round 14, and we're looking at big picture stuff with where Brisbane are at right now. And at round 14, profile-wise, it's still hovering around that 6th, 7th, 8th profile in the competition. And it's been there for pretty much the majority of the 14-week campaign this year. There are parts of their game that are starting to go okay, and then there are other parts of the game that are starting to just die off. But the interesting part for me, we don't sort of really look at the fixture probably as much as what we should. So they've got 6 of their last 9 games, 10 games, whatever it is, against top 9 teams. And we mentioned 4 weeks ago, their record against top 9 teams is far better than what it is against the bottom 9 teams in the competition. So whether or not a trip down to Geelong and a challenge against Geelong is going to get them up and going again, and then playing Collingwood and Adelaide or whatever. But if this profile doesn't change, as a whole of what it's been in 2025, if it doesn't change in 4 or 5 weeks' time, then the reality is that this is what they are in 2025, and what they are in 2025 is going to be hard. To replicate what they did in September last year.
No magic bullets.
So, and the loss of Jack Payne, you can't undersell
Massive
that.
Loss,
Before last week, only Sam Taylor had taken more intercept marks than Jack Payne in the competition. So you've seen what a couple of teams have done without their key defender being there. It opens them up system-wise. How they replace him, Darcy Gardner probably comes in and takes that role, but the reality is he's not Jack Payne.
They were 5th last year, though. I mean, I think they did go on to win the premiership, but over the course of the season, they were 5th.
Yes, but at round 14, 2024, when they were 13th, profile-wise, better than what the profile is at round 14, 2025, and they're sitting 3rd. So we don't get seduced into W's and L's. We more look at the big picture side of things.
Big picture, Sam.
Yes. So just keep an eye on the lines.
W's and L's, they're irrelevant. Wins are irrelevant. Melbourne Footy Club.
So Rising Star, 10 weeks away from getting announced. Right now, Rising Star should be going straight to the hands of Harvey Langford with what he's doing.
Angry's going to be happy
with what
that.
he's doing. So out of the Rising Star, the players that are eligible for the Rising Star
Yes.
this year, he's having the best season of any player. He's in the top 100 in the competition. Only Daniel Curtin is also top 100. The next highest rated player is Murphy Reid at 110.
Yep.
Okay. So to put that into a bit of consideration with where a top 100 Raiders season sits in your first year
Yes.
in the AFL system, not since your debut, your first year in the AFL system. So our rating system goes back 15 years. Only 7 players in their very first season have been inside the top 100 at season's end.
You going to name names?
Harvey Langford could be the 8th. So of this,
Does that make you an immortal?
So Nick Dacos in 2022.
Yeah, he's an immortal.
Yeah, he was a top 100 player. Rosie in 2019. Noah Anderson in 2020. Bailey Smith in 2019. Tom Langdon was an interesting one in 2014 for Collingwood. Callum Mills in 16, won the Rising Star. And Bailey Fritsch in 2018. They're the only players that have been a top 100 player at the end of their very first season. And what he's doing from a ball use perspective, I keep talking about how important using it is. That is his point of difference on anyone in the competition. Out of all wingers, he has the second most impact for ball use in the competition this year. He is having a brilliant
Do you see
season.
any comparisons with the great Bontempelli that Angry is thrown down my throat? I thought.
Well, I know a lot of people are talking about Melbourne's midfield,
Yeah.
whether or not this
Bring him
guy
in.
gets injected, because his point of difference is how he uses it.
Okay.
If he does get injected into there, he could almost lock himself away for the Rising Star, because he could get even better with
Okay.
more exposure around the footy. But this guy is shooting the lights out with his season and should be recognised
Well played.
as Rising Star favourite.
The question was, has any team turned the ball over more in their back half than Essendon did against Geelong at the weekend? That's from Ben in Seaview Downs.
So they gave up 72 points from their back half turnovers, most by any team in 3 years,
Whoa.
unfortunately for the Bombers. Just on that, Brisbane didn't give up one score from their back half turnovers. No team's done that for 5 years
And lost.
and lost.
That happens when the other mob kicks.
happens? I'm sorry. But
17-5.
Rub salt in the wound.
Righto. Our news headlines have been brought to you by Sheen Panel Service tonight. $750 off your excess with Sheen Group. T's and C's apply. Righto. Who did they miss? Hoyney?
So MDP. So overall, so as I said, Max Holmes overall highest rated game for the season. No one used the ball better than what Max Holmes did.
What your rate was 38, wasn't it?
36.
36.
Max Gordon, ball winning. No one impacted the game more through ball winning. Unfortunately, ball use wasn't Max's thing. And defensive actions, Rory Lobb against St Kilda. No one had greater impact through their defensive actions than Rory Lobb. Who did they miss? Joel Frazier. Didn't get a vote from the coaches. Third highest rated player on the ground. Again, postseason bye. Since their bye, 93% game time in defence against Hawthorn. Half his game time down back against St Kilda.
Yep.
Might be joining Bailey Dale as the two half-back flankers post-bye.
But didn't get a vote.
Didn't get a vote.
Baby Bond.
Your man, Gerard Dane Zorko.
Yeah, how'd he go?
Highest rated player on the
Yeah, I
ground.
thought he
Didn't get a vote.
Nothing.
Season best game for Dane Zorko. He's ball used across halfback, superb and instrumental for Brisbane down there. Did a lot right, as we said. Brad Close, I reckon every team would kill for a Brad Close.
Great footy head.
Didn't get a vote. 6th highest rated player on the ground. I
Come
think
on,
he's the
Mackie.
best defensive forward in the competition. Watch him to go to Dane Zorko this weekend. Does both offensively and defensively. Champion Data favourite, I think 2 weeks in a row, 2 of the last 3 weeks. Sam Sukowski, unfortunately gone down with injury.
Yep.
But before he went down, was Fremantle's highest rated player on the ground. Didn't get a
Having
vote
a
from
look
the
at him
coaches.
during the yesterday, he's about pick 60.
Yeah,
in the
great
draft.
pick. 14 disposals, 9 scores, maximum damage player.
Great effort.
Sam Sukowski, and has been that for a while. I was really surprised at this one, the game UDG. Miles Bergen didn't get a vote
No.
from the coaches. 4th highest rated player on the ground.
Did a good job.
Christian Petraka, 19th highest rated player on the ground, and then had impact offensively himself. So he's playing that role extremely well over the last couple of weeks.
Come on, Ken, we were pumping you up and you let us down.
Miles Bergman there. So just a couple for who did they miss
Good
from
ones,
the
Hoyne.
weekend.
All right, your jam and your horror. Do you want to start positive or negative?
No, we'll go positive. And then
You always
and then
start
we'll drop
positive.
the hammer to finish.
You leave it on a sour note.
To finish off.
Righto.
So Saturday afternoon, GWS. Jesse Hogan and Aaron Cadman became the first pairing in the game's history, or
Yep.
Champion Data's history, the world didn't exist before that, to have 15 plus disposals, 5 plus contested marks, and 5 plus goals each.
Wow.
No pairing has done that in Champion
Who are the
Data's
top
history.
3 rated players in that game? Have you got it? Because there's a lot of noise about the 3 key players being
Marco
given a buzz.
Monteverde.
Yeah,
the
Marco,
news
yeah.
gave him the 3, 2, and 1.
What, in that game?
Cadman, Hogan, and Logan Morris.
So Dane Zorko, highest rated player on the ground. Hogan and Cadman, number 2 and number 3.
Okay.
And then the horror, I didn't have to do this, but I'm going to have to do it for
Why?
Essendon's sake. So they've got a percentage of 78.9
Yes.
with a 6-7 win-loss record. That's the second worst percentage in AFL history with that win-loss record.
Really?
And the worst percentage by any team in 98 years
So Fremantle
with
to
that
come
win-loss record.
into Gold Coast. That's their next
Yeah, I didn't
2
want to
weeks.
have
They've
to
got to
do
buy
that.
after Freo.
Switchkowski.
I thought it was a very positive show until then. so
Yeah,
we'll
he
finish
just kicked him in the gut. Switchkowski, 73. Number 73.
Great pick. Great
Hoyne,
pick. Free up.
superb tonight.